More California streaming, this time with the iPhone 13. This is Mac Voices. This edition of Mac Voices is supported by the MacVoices Slack, available to Silver, Gold, and Platinum patrons of Mac Voices. Sign up today at patreon.com/MacVoices. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This is part 2 in a 3-part conversation with the Mac Voices Live panel about their impressions and opinions of Apple's California streaming event. This time, we go straight for the iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 Pro, who it's for, and what the panel thinks about it. So let's go back and let them do the talking. Let me pull the chat room back in before we move on, because there's a discussion. Craig says Wi-Fi calling, and Brad says Skype could do it. And I'm putting Brad in a timeout box because he mentioned Skype. But,
shame on you, Brad.
But he did. Then he redeemed himself and said, or FaceTime audio. So good on you, Brad. The last one did. Yes, Mini 5 supported original pencil. The Mini is great as an e-reader, Rich says. And Brad agrees, less compromises on the Mini. Webb asks, and we'll get to this when we get to the phones, have they changed the physical size of the new phone? Will my existing wallet on my iPhone 12 Max work on my 13 Pro Max?
It should.
Yeah, Brad says slightly fatter and much heavier. And that's what Brad wanted to know.
Andrew's the person to ask on that, as a matter of fact, because
okay.
Andrew was sent some cases.
Oh, that's right.
In advance. And so Andrew's got the scoop.
Yes.
Got pull.
Yeah. So these cases were from Totally. They've sent me some cases for a couple years now. I put them on my, I have an iPhone 12 Pro, and all the buttons are misaligned. I tried like all sizes of cases, and I may have been kind of confused maybe between the iPhone 13 case and the iPhone 13 Pro case. But even so, with both cases, the buttons were misaligned. The camera button, the camera like area was bigger. So I don't think people will be able to reuse their 12 cases.
Yeah, not surprised.
Yeah.
I am a little, because Apple continues to tout how environmental they are, and now everybody has to go buy a new piece of plastic to put around their phone. That seems disappointing to me. Like, we're going to take away the chargers, but we're not going to, but we're also going to make it so you can't use the same case.
Yeah.
Well,
I was surprised, and maybe this is jumping ahead to the iPhone. I was surprised that, they pointed out that, they're finally eliminating, I guess, that plastic sleeve and saving whatever it was, 700,000 billion gazillion metric tons of plastic each year. So, I'm not surprised that, they're not really, thinking about, sizes and cases and things, they're just focusing on stuff under their control. But, maybe they'll get to the point where they're, where they pay a little bit more attention to reusability of cases, like they would do with USB-C on everything and sharing peripherals among lots of other devices.
Yeah, and I know that the environmental thing is a big deal, but on the other hand, we're all screaming we all want different things. I mean, think about it. Mark just said USB-C. We all want more battery life. Doesn't matter how good the battery life is, you always want more. And that means that you either got to try to take things out of the inside so you can pack more battery in, or you've got to expand it out just a little bit. You know that if you have the USB-C, almost certainly the form factor is going to have to change. So, as you evolve these things, the last thing, in my opinion, you can do is not evolve something or not improve the functionality for the sake of a case.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many people out there that buy, I'm not going to name any names, but there's a person on this panel who has like 14 watch bands, and I know a lot of people that have Yeah, see, he's giving it away by reaching for something.
David, you could have played it cool and no one would have. Well, I mean, I would have known. But.
Dave, you were clear and free.
That's fine.
You know,
I'm happy to admit it.
I have a handful, but not
buy
a
one
ton.
or two. Yeah, buy one or two cases for your phone, depending on what you're doing with it. And if you need a third, great.
Three.
But, yeah. So
Well,
I just can't get excited over that.
I want to point out another thing because, again, Andrew, I think you picked this up. Something about the wallets being different on the new, like in the stuff that we saw today. Because do you have one?
So I was actually just thinking about that. So they announced as kind of a minor, like, they just mentioned it and then breeze past with the important updates. But the new MagSafe wallets, they have some kind of functionality. I don't know if it's some kind of chip built into it, but they will work with Find My. So if you leave your wallet behind at a restaurant or whatever, you will be able to see it in the Find My app. However, also I just want to say, so I wrote this up. I saw that I don't think I wrote it up, but I saw on their product page, it looks like for some reason this doesn't work in their clear MagSafe case. I don't know why.
What I heard was that Find My will show the location when the wallet was last attached to the phone.
Oh.
So it's not that it has a chip in it. It just the phone knows when it got disconnected and remembers that. So if the wallet moved after you put it down, it wouldn't know.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that someone at I understand the words that Andrew is saying, but what I'm hearing is someone at Apple has actually used the wallet and it didn't stick like it was supposed to, and here we are.
Yeah, could be. Well, it sounds like we've already moved to the iPhone, so let's go out of order and go that direction. What are your reactions? We had the 13s, and they made a big deal out of those. And then, some of us were, and I was among them, concerned that
me too.
There seemed to be not quite as much as we wanted. And then they brought out the Pros. It's like, okay, that's great.
It's like a tease. I fell for it.
Well, we all did, David. I think we all did. But let's start with the 13s. What do you think for this as a base model? I know Brittany hopes to get here, and I'm sure she was hopping up and down for joy because there's a mini.
Very excited about the mini. We talked earlier.
Yeah.
So she's pretty jazzed about the mini.
So, I guess they will just dial back their production expectations, but they'll still offer it. Yeah. But I tell you, the 13 I thought was a very compelling. Again, nothing here felt like it was entry level. That's I think the thing I like the best about this.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the only thing you're losing is not on the Pro. You got the LiDAR scanner for night mode. It's not on the 13 or 13 mini. So that's all on the Pros. So is that important to you?
Doesn't it also have like less capability for optical zoom?
2x versus 6x.
Yeah.
No, 3x.
3x.
Well, it's 6x from the wide angle to the zoom.
Right. That's what I'm looking on their spec sheet here. I'm sorry, but it's
the range is 6.
Optical zoom range. Optical zoom range is 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
I felt like this was we talked about it before, and I don't remember if we did it on the show or not. But we talked about, the evolution track and the revolution track, and this very much felt like evolution track. It was very 12S-y. But it felt like some really big evolutions in some of that, like the macro stuff was very exciting to me. I am a sucker for macro photography. I always have been. It's like one of the few accessories I ever sprung for with my digital camera was like nice macro lens stuff. So it's very tempting. But like all of the stuff that we got with those things and like the evolutions in the computational photography and stuff like that, like it all felt really substantial. It didn't feel like, you know, a snow leopard kind of a hardware release. Like, it definitely felt like we got a lot out of this. It felt like when we went from 3G to 3GS, where all of a sudden you could shoot video with your phone and, you know, that kind of stuff, where we got, you know, a fundamental big, you know, some fundamental bigger changes in it. So as much as people talked about it being a lukewarm reception before it came out, I think there's probably a lot of people that never got around to a 12 for whatever reason, and now I can get 5G and all this other stuff in a 13. Like, that sounds really compelling. And even if it doesn't, if you're buying an iPhone 12 now, you're still getting a really, really awesome phone, and, you know, it's no slouch. At, you know, right now, like, there's not a bad decision to be made if you're in the market for a new iPhone.
Well,
but it seems to me that
the 256 gig model, if you go 256 gig with the iPhone 12, it's $849. If you go 256 with the 13 when it comes out, it's $899. So there's, you know, I mean, it just spend the extra $50 unless you're going to go refurb to used market. I would not buy a 12 right now.
But I went to look. I was curious on the difference in price between the 12 Pro Max, etc. It looks like they've stopped selling them. I couldn't find any iPhone 12 Pros on their site.
Not listed on the site.
Yeah,
you have to go to a reseller to get it. They aren't selling them on the app anymore.
Yeah, no, I was more interested in understanding their Apple's list price, and because I don't know if reseller would have that.
Well, it's weird because under the compare iPhone models, iPhone 12 is listed as starting at $599. 13 is listed as starting at $699. But once you go up to what I would say is a reasonable amount of storage, 256, then there's only a $50 difference.
And
Right.
you know, and across the board, the pricing, frankly, I was expecting the pricing on everything to jump.
Me too.
And it really didn't jump much, if any, especially at the entry level. I haven't priced everything out and compared everything at every level, but for the most part, you didn't see, in a world where we have shortages of everything from chips on down. I heard this morning there's now a shortage of paper again.
Well,
this was nice. Well, I've heard every kind of paper, Frank. Every kind of paper.
Kind of paper, you know,
every kind of paper. Everything is what I was hearing in the morning.
Got it.
Wow.
Okay.
Costco. But yeah, I thought the pricing was really impressive for these.
Yeah, considering.
But I think I think Guy was the one who corrected me, you know, earlier when saying for $100 more, you basically quadruple the amount of storage. So I think Apple has very cleverly, you know, set prices and set upgrades to incent people to spend $100 more and get more. And you know, that's been the theme of the past couple of earnings calls where Luke has been saying that they've had great mix and great product mix. So people are clearly understanding and buying up. So it's interesting. I think this is the first time they've had a 1 terabyte iPhone model, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but you need that for the video.
The
Stuff.
Promotion videos are going to be big.
No, the
ProRes stuff.
ProRes, that's right. ProRes, yes.
So I don't know anything about the ProRes. I'm happy to admit, like, I'm a video noob when it comes to at least, you know, the shooting piece of it. So what I want to find out is, they said that was coming later. So it sounded like the way they said it is the way we've gotten software updates in the past that do certain things. So what I'm curious about is, what exactly is ProRes, that if you buy a phone now, you can get ProRes later? And if that's the case, does it mean that maybe if you have a Pro Max or a 12 Pro Max or something now, could you also get the opportunity at ProRes, depending on what it is that it's, you know, that they're relying on inside the phone to make it work?
Well, I'm
you
sure
need
Apple
the 1
would use
terabyte.
Yeah, I
You
was going to
can't
say
do a
I'm
lot
sure,
of stuff without the 1 terabyte.
Yeah, Frank is right. Video consumes, as we all know, a large amount of storage, and I'm sure Apple uses this as a feature to stimulate sales of their top of the line feature, top of the line iPhone.
Okay, but what is it? What is ProRes?
So ProRes is a video compression or video storage format that's proprietary to Apple. And they made a lot of points today there that it's empowered by the power of the CPU, and it's so
it's just a container.
It's a container, and it's an encoding algorithm.
Okay,
creating the process.
I think it's there's a wider color gamut. Who was it? Brad in the chat room says ProRes video is larger file size per minute, which is absolutely true.
Okay.
So, which
but
is why
doesn't tell me what it is. And the reason I'm curious what it is because how are they giving it to you later if you buy an iPhone 13 now?
They're giving it to you.
Software update.
Yeah. It'll be a software update.
Or an app update or something.
Yeah. So, and Kelly, what it does is it captures, I mean, it's like your phone, you capture RAW or you capture JPEG. You're capturing more information so you can do more with it.
Okay, so it's a video format then.
Yes.
So
it's a codec.
Final Cut Pro.
But I think it's I think unlike a lot of other codecs that you have 8-bit per RGB channel, I think ProRes offers 10-bit. So it's better for certain special effects and editing and cinematic video versus cable news type of video.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you look at some of the things they were showing off, the thing that really caught my attention as far as video goes was they were saying, well, just go ahead and shoot your video. And if you want to change perspective, you want to change your bokeh or focus range. When they showed the detective guy who like kind of turned around to look at, I think it was a woman that was in the background. And the guy on screen was basically just touching each of their heads, and it was changing the focal range, and then he changed it back when he turned his head back around again. And I was just kind of like, whoa, that is so cool.
So I wonder,
I don't think that has anything to do with ProRes though.
Well, no, but
that was the focusy stuff.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, but the cool thing about that is that it allows people that are creating video, whether they're pros or not, to focus more on perspective, to focus on, okay, I want to get this in the shot and I want to get that in the shot, and I'm not going to have to worry about where my focal range is for these two things that may not be looking at each other side by side, but are kind of off in a distance like this, because I can change it in post. And that's like incredible. That's a mind blower.
So do you guys remember, I don't know, about 8-ish years ago, there was that so-called light field camera company called Litro, and they were offering the same capability. They capture they capture all sorts of things through your app. You could dial in. Do you want somebody in the front, or do you want somebody in the back? And it looks like Apple are doing similar thing in their video. But I back up a step, and I wonder if we're going to see similar things, from their still camera imaging capabilities, that you can change where you focus,
live shots,
and fields.
Yeah, I mean, it was the rack focus back and forth, and the fact that they said that while you could control it manually, there are going to be algorithms in there that do it automatically. I'm very anxious to see just how well that works, because we've seen some of the challenges with that here. If somebody holds up something that doesn't get masked out, and the camera locks in on that, and then you take it away, and then it takes a second to come back here. So to how that's going to work, and I see a similarity. Maybe it's just wishful thinking, but I see between that and center stage, that somehow there's learning going on in there, saying this is what I think you want to focus on, or this is how I think you want it to do, but you can override it.
Today's Mac Voices is supported by the MacVoices Slack.
Available as a benefit to silver, gold, and platinum patrons of Mac Voices. The Mac Voices Slack is where you can connect with the members of the Mac Voices Live panel and other Mac Voices patrons. Get in on the discussions, agree or disagree with our opinions, and get your voice heard. Sign up at patreon.com/MacVoices. And thanks for supporting Mac Voices.
So I have a question for Frank. So yes. I'm just wondering, all this emphasis on using the iPhone 13 as a Pro Max as a capture device and focusing on ProRes. I'm just wondering if Apple's trying to recover ground from when it screwed the pooch years ago in the upgrades of Final Cut 10 and lost a lot of market share to Adobe. I'm just wondering if these are trying to provide unique capability to bring people back into the fold. What do you think?
I wouldn't think at all. And I would draw as a comparison the explosion of YouTube videos. Now, what I'm saying is you extend that, because what now you've done is, instead of like me using, like I'm using right now, the SE 2020, just to do a podcast, I now have the ability to go out and do an independent production. A lot of the internet, the local film festivals like Telluride and stuff, and down in Austin and Southwest, you can now afford that equipment. I have a friend that has, he buys like major equipment, and some of those lenses, you're talking thousands of dollars. And this stuff is actually holding up, and this is phenomenal. And the odd thing is, Chuck was pointing to before, is that you can correct it in post. When I went to film school, we had a guy. Now this was film. This is before anybody was really doing video, or it was on tape. We'd shoot stuff, and we go, well, that didn't turn out right. He goes, oh, we'll correct it in post. And we're like, you can't do that with film. And now here we are 30 years later, we can correct it in post.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brad says that, this is interesting when you start talking these kind of comparisons. It makes it more like a cheap alternative to fancy video cameras like Red. Yeah. Almost disposable and certainly small.
Well, I had that thought that Apple, like, it almost seemed like that's who they were marketing to. It seemed like that portion of the thing. It's like, who are they talking to? Mm-hmm. It seemed like they were talking to people that were like Hollywood, doing Hollywood production. No. It's like, why are they, which is not a very big part of the market. It wasn't really directed at consumers.
No, I disagree. It was directed at consumers. It was.
Frank hit on it when he said YouTubers.
Yeah, it wasn't consumers.
Well, no, it's not. No,
it's a slightly different group of people.
It's made for storytellers, for the people who want to be able to do independent film,
creators,
but can't afford the stuff. Because if you watched, matter of fact, the thing that dawned on me while we've been talking is that whole event today was done with what you could do with an iPhone. And I think that was why they were jumping around all over the place, because they were trying to get you in the idea of, hey, you can go out and you can do these kind of things. And all you got to do is come with a story. Now, they made a point. You still have to be professional. You have to get the right actors. You have to do the right lighting. You have to, do all the other stuff properly. But now you have a camera that's affordable, that you have an entryway or entrance into the film industry, and it doesn't look like you did it on a high 8. It doesn't look cheapo,
right? But
someone has to fill in the imagination with it.
Even if you sold a phone to every single YouTube creator that exists, that's got to be a tiny fraction of Apple's market.
It is.
Yeah, but this is not for YouTube. What they showed today is for a totally different thing that's coming down the pike. I'll put money.
Yeah, but it's not a mass market.
I couldn't disagree with you more, Frank.
No,
but
I think the word we've been avoiding or missing is prosumer, and I think there is a serious prosumer market out there.
I think there are people who take. Sorry, Chuck.
Yeah. Before you do it, I want to welcome in the marvelous Mike Schmitz. There.
Wow.
I got it. Mike, how you doing?
got it.
Good. Am I late?
One must make an entrance. I mean,
started a few minutes ago. But
You're late.
Are we live yet?
You're late.
It's actually
I've got to jump in 3 minutes.
Are we on the-
Frank,
It's
I
actually
gave
been
you
over
4
for
minutes.
20 minutes.
Yeah, we're just BSing now.
Oh, we go
I'm
ahead
impressed
yours.
with Marvelous. All I got was completely integrated. So,
No,
I'm
I
kidding.
got
chaos.
you got chaotic, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kelly, and then we'll give Mike a chance.
So, well, there were two things that struck me about the video section of the event today, and the first was they showed us. They were trying to show us, look at all the stuff you can do with just an iPhone, but none of the people they were showing us doing all that stuff were using just an iPhone. They had an iPhone that was hooked up to a thing, and they had like a gimbal, and they had other stuff that was all connected to the phone. Nobody was sitting there with just a phone, pointing a phone at a thing and making it happen. Nobody was doing that. And I really, really, really wanted to know what the other stuff was that those folks were using, because I'm not that person and I am curious.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. You have to still have proper lighting. You still have to have proper audio. You still have to do all that stuff professionally. You are not going to replace a red or a black camera with an iPhone. There's no way in hell. But this opens the market to a lot of writers who can get their foot in the door and make a solid pitch piece.
But I think this is a good storyboarding option. But that was the first thing that struck me is like all these people are using other stuff and using the phone as the camera, which is valid, but what's all that other stuff you have hooked up to it? Like, not like I recognize lights, but none of that other stuff was lights. What were the other things that they were connected up to? And then the other thing was they're like, we got Catherine Bigelow to come shoot video. So they get Catherine Bigelow to come shoot video. And then she's on like a FaceTime camera, badly lit at a terrible angle, looking up her nose. And I'm like, you got Catherine Bigelow and this is how you treat her in a media event? Are you kidding? Like, honestly, I was very unhappy about that part because I'm like, you have all this technology and you're showing me what awesome video you can make. And then, she looks like she's on a Zoom call in a classroom. It was terrible.
Yeah, she may have been.
I mean, maybe she was, but like, come on, you couldn't have given her at least an iPhone 12 with a little bit nicer camera she could have sat in front of. Come on. Anyway.
Yeah. Hold on, because Jim. Sorry, let's do this again. Mark has to go. So, Mark, thank you so much for being here.
It's fun as always. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care. Yeah.
Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Magnificent Mark Fuccio. So yes, let's see. Mike, I want to make sure you got in here because you haven't been here. We've covered the iPhone. Well, we're debating about the iPhone right now. We've covered the iPad, both iPads, but what's your takeaway from the event?
Let's get to the important stuff. Mike, what are you ordering?
I have ordered an iPad mini.
What color?
Just the boring old space gray with the black cover.
I'm so disappointed in you and Chuck both.
The electric orange looked interesting, but if it's not the exact right orange, I'm going to hate it.
Yep.
Yeah, but that was the cover, wasn't it, Mike? That wasn't the iPad itself.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
the four colors of the iPad, I guess, were there was a purple one which looked pretty decent, actually.
The purple looked nice.
Space gray, and then one I'd never heard of. I don't know. They didn't look
Starlight?
all that remarkable to me.
Yeah,
Starlight. The white one, I think. Basically.
Like
I know.
goldish.
Rosemary Orchard loves all things purple, and she was geeking out about that lavender one.
Mm-hmm. She was the first person I thought of when they showed the purple one. I know who's getting one of those.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to me because I didn't think there were going to be iPads in this event. I figured there was going to be an October event where they would cover iPads and new Mac stuff because of all the rumors of the new MacBook Pro. And I remember being on MacVoices when the previous iPad event came out, and I remember saying that I had my money set aside. I was ready to buy a new iPad, and the new iPad Pro just didn't do it for me.
Didn't do it.
I was completely surprised that I wanted that mini so badly. I never thought I'd go backwards from a 11-inch iPad Pro to iPad mini. But the thing that gets me about this is I almost never use the keyboard on my iPad. And this looks like the perfect sketchnote device for me. It looks about the size of an A5 notebook. I can grab my iPad, the Apple Pencil, my notebook, and just go to the coffee shop, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you are one of those guys that has a very specific use case in mind, and you found. I'm putting words in your mouth, but you have found the regular iPad to be good, but not as convenient. So this kind of goes to the conversation we were having with Guy about the iPad Mini, not being a compromise, but being the size almost being a feature.
I was not expecting an iPad Mini. If you would have told me there would be an iPad Mini, I would not have expected the A15 Bionic in it.
Understood.
I feel like this iPad is going to last me for a really long time. And I'm also in the market to move my current iPad down the chain. I have my 13-year-old son doing podcast editing for me now.
Nice.
So he's doing it in Ferrite, and he's been borrowing my iPad, and then like he gets locked out and he's like, Dad, I need your face.
Mike, that's why I got the M1 Pro, was because I edit podcasts in Ferrite, and mine was just starting to get creaky around the edges. And so that was what prompted me to pull the trigger on getting the new one. So yeah.
So how about the phones? Anything catch your interest there?
What was that?
The phones.
iPhones. I think the cameras are crazy on the 13 Pro. My wife hasn't seen part of the presentation yet. I'm going to try and keep her from watching it because otherwise I may have to buy her something. She's a photographer, and I don't think she's interested in like the cinematography mode or anything like that, but those cameras just continue to keep getting better and better. That's the reason to get a new iPhone, in my opinion, nowadays, is the cameras just keep getting so much better every single year.
I have only watched it twice. I watched it live, and then I've watched it a second time, but I heard the phrase more, I thought today, computational photography, more than has ever been said before. And I think
they said it a lot on the 12s.
Yeah. But today seemed, my perception was that it was more. And I think that's where Apple is really, beating the photography industry, that they're putting more intelligence into these cameras. This was something we discussed earlier today, but the Pro has a 15x digital zoom. Mm-hmm. And before all you purists scream out there, no, digital zoom, the digital zoom is not all that bad, not by any means, especially if you really need to capture something at that distance. So, and now I'm dying to get something and say, okay, across the street, how much into my neighbor's window can I see with the digital zoom?
Just go ahead and put that out there on the internet for everybody.
That's they won't mind a bit. Yeah, but so I was kind of blown away by that they're really acknowledging that and pushing that this is one of the ways they're enhancing these cameras.
And like the zoom, like I have a 12 Pro, and I used the zoom not too long ago. There was a rabbit in the far side of my yard, a cute little bunny, and I went to take a picture, but I didn't want to get real close, so I just zoomed way in on my camera, and it looked like I was standing there. Like it looked like I was way closer than I was, just based on like there wasn't a lot of noise in the picture, and it really looked like I was a lot closer than I actually was. So I thought,
thank you, Kelly, for the non-creepy use case for digital zoom.
Yes.
Well, like
creepy if you're a rabbit.
Yeah, but did you take the picture from your neighbor's house?
Yes.
I admit nothing.
It puts the lotion on the skin.
I really like it. Was one of the things that I can't get over is Guy over there with his Buffalo Bill reference. Another thing I can't get over is the evolution of the camera in the phones. Like when I was tied to a cellular plan and I could only get a new phone every 2 years anyway, like I was blown away every time I got a new camera, because the whole reason I wanted to upgrade was because I was getting a new camera, because low light photography got better and better and better and better every single model. So it was great. And then and then like as the low light stuff improved, like we've talked about this before on here, like there's like a few places that I like to go and take a picture every time I get a new phone so that I can see how that picture has evolved over time. Like, here's what it looked like on my 3G and here's what it looks like on my 12. And look how amazing the difference is, in this picture I take of this particular neon sign at night, look what it looks like. And that's one of the things that I've always noticed, but it really feels like basically since we went to Face ID, that we've gotten even bigger leaps in the camera every year. Like I loved the low light and the night mode on my 11 Pro. It was so good. I sort of bet big on the 11 Pro and I went with that, and then suddenly ended up with the ability to buy an iPhone 12. So I bought the 12 Pro, and the 12 Pro was amazing. Like I absolutely love the camera in my 11 Pro until the second the 11 Pro became Mr. Kelly's phone and I got my 12 Pro. Like it was still just a spectacular camera, and I was not sad. I would not have been sad to not get a 12 because my 11 Pro was still a really, really great camera. Like the weekend before my 12 Pro showed up, we went to Crater Lake and I took some really awesome pictures in the night of like the stars and like the Mount, like Wizard Island and some things like that. Like I did all that with an 11 Pro and they look amazing. And that's one of the things that I've really noticed, because I always kind of keep an eye on the camera. I like to think that I am good at making images in certain contexts, and watching that evolve, like it's like that's the thing where all of the attention is sort of going right now, at least on the iPhone side, because it does so much already, and they continue with software to give you additional features. You can carry your driver's license around in it now. You can have your car key. You can tell your phone to open the garage door and turn on lights and all kinds of stuff. You can do all of that really easily. And so like the software piece of it isn't the thing that you can reel people in with, and it actually is the camera again. Like it always used to be like kind of a nice thing that the camera was a little bit better, but now like what they're doing with computational photography, it's leaps and bounds between the two, like last year and this year.
Jim, you have you've been kind of quiet here on some of this. Thoughts on the iPhone in general, the photography, anything about the new camera or the new phones? Whoops.
I like the blue on the Pro. Frank left, so he was saying that it's not, iPhone's not a danger to red, but I think he's wrong about that over the long term. I mean, the iPhone just goes around slurping up markets, almost accidentally, and I would think something like red would be right in the in the headlights for an iPhone. Not that Apple would go after it, but that it just would be incidental roadkill.
I think it's more, I don't think it's that they're like swinging for the market, of people who would normally, like, I don't think there's anybody who's ever, not anytime soon anyway, going to be making the decision of, gee willikers, I could shoot this with a red camera or I could shoot this with an iPhone. I think I'll use the iPhone. Like, that's not a decision people are making. I think what it's giving you is the opportunity to like rough draft something or take some really amazing video that ends up being extras on the DVD, if people still do that anymore. or like really good location scout kinds of stuff. Or I can shoot something now with my phone. I can stand here in this really cool location and take this load of video and then go back and broadcast that on the volume. And now part of season 2 of The Mandalorian is like this really crazy landscape from the wilds of New Zealand or something, right? Like that kind of stuff is the kind of stuff that I could see happening. And I think it's just making people who are not necessarily people who were going to be in the market for a red camera in the first place. It's making people who these are the tools that are available to them, best camera, right? Like that's, the best camera is the one you have with you. And it's just making people who are storytellers, it's just giving them better tools to use.
I guess I kind of forgot my original point, which was kind of that it seemed to me like Apple was marketing this as if they were marketing a red camera. That portion of the presentation, it seemed to me was directed
Here's Hollywood
at the kind of
filmmakers
people
doing Hollywood film
exactly.
things.
And I just thought that was weird. It's like, why are they marketing to Hollywood filmmakers? That's such a niche, tiny, thing. It seemed like an odd way to sell a phone.
Tell you why, because I think she's going to explode if you don't.
You're marketing to the people who want to be that. That's always what you're doing. You don't.
Yeah, but I still don't think that's enough people.
Products to somebody who's 60.
That want to be that.
You show someone who's 40.
There's still more to say about the iPhones 13, the Apple Watch 7, and we do a quick discussion of the emergency update Apple pushed out to iPadOS and iOS. That's all in the next edition of Mac Voices. Until then, and as always, I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.